screens don't work, so we're gonna do this the old-fashioned way. We don't have all the old-fashioned props that we used to have, like maps and displays. So you're gonna have to listen to me. I will try to use a louder voice than I normally use. I don't know if you can hear me now. I feel like I'm yelling, but I'm probably not. Okay. I will try to yell so you can hear. You guys can't hear, you can move up as close as you need to.
All right,
You
well,
can start whenever
you guys are gonna have to let me know if my tone is loud enough. Sean is absent, so I'm filling in for Sean. I'm Liz Foster. I'd be the vice chair, for another 2 years and then I'm done. Just a mental note. I'm just gonna do a quick roll call, to help Jen since she is a little, sideways on a few things right now. Eric, here. Nancy is absent. Liz is here. Andrew Getty.
Here.
Sean Carlson is absent. Jenna. Here. Chris Nord. Kelsey McCombs, absent. And Dan Josephson.
Here.
We have identified our roll calls. We have a quorum present. So we will call this commission meeting to order at 5:31 on Thursday, April 23rd. Just to inform everyone, and hopefully you can hear me, the commission and those in attendance, that items considered today's meeting would also be addressed on Monday, make sure I have the dates right, guys, May 11th for the community development meeting, followed by the city council meeting on Tuesday, May 12th. Did I have that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, so our first order of business is the approval for the minutes. So I'm gonna make a call for the approval of the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. So our next item on the agenda is our public hearing section. Members of the commission and the public will be open to a public hearing to give consideration to the items presented. Our community development director, Larry Remen, will present the consideration. Following the commission may ask questions of staff. Then following that, the owner may present. And following that, the public may speak. We ask that attendees come to the podium, especially tonight, and speak their full name and address for the public record. We also limit comments, if possible, to 3 minutes. After this, the hearing will be closed and the commission will act upon the request at hand. Okay, so given consideration, our first item of public hearing tonight is to give consideration to amended variance, which allowed 343 parking spaces instead of the required 408 spaces, and a waiver, and this is a mouthful, a waiver of payment in lieu of spaces to remove 2 conditions related to the .48 acre lot at 1317 West Highway 10 at 1305 West Highway 10, 2 Bulldogs LLC. So now I'll have Larry introduce the project.
Okay. First thing I want to say is my new title as the Community Development Director is Planning and Zoning Director.
Thank you very much, Larry.
With that, the Boys and Girls Club thrift store was granted an amended variance back in 2021 to allow 343 parking spaces instead of 408 spaces. And the Planning Commission, I think, wisely granted that variance because we were trying to redevelop a big box store. And I think this was a good way to do it. They got to split off a piece of that property for the old grocery store. And then there was this tract next to the bank, which American National Bank purchased it in order to do an addition to their bank and have this for their parking. We're no longer planning to do that, and so now we're looking at an amended variance request to change a couple of the conditions that are on the original variance. Condition 3 would be eliminated, and the other conditions, 3 and 4, number 3 was additional 34 parking spaces be provided when American National constructs its addition or on or before September 14th, 2026. And number 4 was that the green space be enlarged to include the area where the mature evergreens are located. Those two conditions would be eliminated under this request. So the proposed amendment, again, would eliminate conditions 3 and 4 to allow this 0.48 acre tract to be sold and developed as a standalone business. Consideration should be given to the following findings of fact. First, the variance is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance, as the property is currently retail and will continue to be retail use. Also, the existing parking spaces will meet the parking needs of the business to be served. Number 2, the variance is consistent with the comprehensive plan as the property will continue to be used for retail. 3, the proposal puts the property to use in a reasonable manner as the existing parking space serves the needs of the existing businesses. And 4, there are circumstances unique to the property as this is the redevelopment of the big box retail property. This is a reasonable redevelopment of the property with additional parking. Those are those thrift stores not possible due to stormwater management. Parking requirements exceed the actual parking needs for the area. And just as an aside, we have a group of planning commissioners that's looking at amending the zoning ordinance to change some of our parking regulations to reduce the number of categories and also to reduce the actual parking requirements for some uses. And finally, number 5, the variance will maintain the essential character of the neighborhood as it will continue as a retail use. So with that, staff recommends approval of the amendment variance.
Okay, any questions, concerns of Larry at this point? Jen, I think that.
With that road in front of, front road essentially, has there been discussion then on expanding that to at least have a third lane for people going west to turn left, so it's not stopping traffic? So it's already terrible as it is, then adding in another,
We
Business.
did have the city engineer take a look at that, and we did not recommend that, but we did recommend that striping be done at that entrance so that people know where they're supposed to be, when they're going out onto the front. So that was his recommendation.
that was discussed currently then with the new scooters?
Yes, just recently.
Okay. I'll open it to, the owners if they'd like to bring forward anything. Scott, it's been a long night, so welcome.
Yeah, good to see you all again. I'm Scott Walls with Middleland Surveying here on behalf of Two Bulldogs LLC. Ben and Sarah are here also, the owners of Two Bulldogs LLC. The bank, is looking to sell this piece of property, and they asked that Ben and Sarah do the work for getting to be its standalone track right now, as when the sale was done from 5-0 Investments to the bank, it was done so that be attached to the bank property, because the bank was gonna expand and put a drive-through in and all that. And now the bank has decided they're not gonna do that, and so they'd like to sell it as a standalone tract. And with that, we've already submitted the work for the lot to be subdivided as a standalone tract, but then also to eliminate this from the parking variance in 2021 that showed, as part of this, the thrift store owned this whole area, their building, the current Aldi's building, and the current Snap Fitness building. They sold off the Aldi's piece, they sold off the Snap piece, and Snap sold this green space to the bank. So that's why they're here. And I think it's been demonstrated over the last 5 years, none of the parking improvements have been done since the variance was granted in 2021. And To my knowledge, there's no parking issues out there at all. The owner from Snap Fitness is here. I guess if he sees there's a parking issue on his property, he can speak to that, but the Boys and Girls Club doesn't have any issue with having enough parking for their facility. So they're asking that this be released from their property. It is part of, when the property was deeded to American National Bank, it came with this cross easement that allowed for access over the Boys and Girls Club property, and then a cross easement that they all could share each other's parking spaces and stuff. So their access, they do have in their deeded access to come in on the Boys and Girls Club property just to the east of the bank there. So with that, I guess if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a quick question, Scott. There's no intention of putting up any barriers to the east of the proposed parking area, correct? There's not, is there any plans for green space? Is there any plans for curbing? Nothing like that. It's all gonna be open parking to that area, correct?
To what's gonna be the scooters?
Yeah.
No, they will have their own curbing. It's a drive-through only coffee shop. It doesn't have any seating in it. So it would have its own, they're gonna make their own entrance into it, do the drive-through exit. So they'll have to meet the city's parking requirements, which doesn't require a certain percentage of green space interior to it. And it does have some green space on the plan, yes.
And it did look like Larry said that the parking of 34, once this is done, will be met.
No,
Parking that is required for this business would be met, it wouldn't be 34 spaces.
Got it, thank you.
that was the variance, was that they were gonna make 34 more spaces on this particular piece of property, and that's what we're asking, is to be released from that 34. Their business, I think, will be required 7 parking spaces for a drive-through business, and their site plan will meet the city's ordinance if this is approved.
There is a site plan in the back.
With the green space being utilized, can that not then leave the pine trees that are there? The
That's-
trees?
Right where they're gonna be entering the property is right where those pine trees are, yes. So no, they would have to go.
But it does look like it's developing other green space,
Yes.
just grass.
For now, I guess,
Trees and grass.
trees and grass.
But what we're saying, there's so many areas, correct?
Right.
Any other I guess I'm correct.
Did you wish to comment?
If you guys have the packet, I don't know if everyone has this.
at the end?
So in the packet, there's a drawing of what the facility would look like on the lot. You haven't seen it.
If you don't have it, I can pass it.
So yeah, this, as Eric was getting to this, we're not asking for approval of their site plan. We're just, can this be released and be a standalone parcel?
Okay, any other comments or questions for?
Old school.
All right, any other public comments?
Thank you.
That would like to come forward? Graham, do you want to state your name and your address?
Yeah, Robert Strand. I own 1315 Highway 10 West. I'll try to make this quick. Back in 2021, when I bought the property, I owned that green space. At the time, I was told that that had to be a parking lot where everybody was granted easement, so that's where all the overflow parking would go. That was the condition that was put on it at that time. I backed out of the deal because I wasn't going to put in a parking lot that I didn't need because I had adequate parking for what I had at the time. That being said, the bank approached me and said, no, we'll buy that from you because we need to expand. You know, and the big thing is the parking requirement. So I sold that half acre to the bank. So here we are. I'm not opposed to businesses coming in the town at all. I just think that if we're gonna switch the conditions, of that piece of property that none of us will have access to anymore, cause we lose our easement to that parking spot. If my business expands, I can't use that as overflow parking anymore, which was a condition that I had when I bought the property that was available to us, cause we all had granted easement to that. On that frontage road, we have a camera. The police department has a camera that points into the east entrance to Walmart. On a daily basis, there's 7,700 cars that go through that east entrance. That's not including the cars that are going to Pro Resources, the strip mall, Aldi's, the Boys and Girls Club, the gym, the bank, the other strip mall on the corner, the other credit union, the car wash, Menards, Weber Ford. So traffic there is heavy. I guess I would recommend that if they're going to switch this and grant this property be built, that access to that back lot be through the driveway, the west driveway to the bank. They're the ones that are gonna benefit from this. We shouldn't, the other business owners shouldn't absorb the congestion and the backups, the potential of the backups. We shouldn't have that burden. That should be on them. They're the ones coming here asking for the variance to add on or to sell that property outright. So I think if they reconfigure it where it's, even if it's one way in, they enter from off the frontage road and they can exit and make it a one-way out. But if we bottleneck that up, Aldi's is gonna be affected, I'm gonna be affected, the Boys and Girls Club is gonna be affected. There's semis that come in to do drop-offs for the Boys and Girls Club. There's people that pull trailers in to do donations for the Boys and Girls Club. I'm not opposed, I just wish that they would reconfigure this so we don't have to bear the burden of the additional traffic in our main entrance.
I'm gonna ask a clarifying question. So when they come off the frontage road right now, it looks like it's designed to come in on the west side of the property, go through the drive-through and out on the existing east side.
Correct.
Am I correct on that
No,
design?
it's designed for them to come in, enter and exit on the east side of the property.
Enter and exit.
Yes.
The same.
Gotcha, gotcha.
And there's not a lot of space from where they're proposing their entrance and exit is to the frontage road. If they reconfigure that, they can stack up along the west side of the bank. What's that?
People in the drive-through,
It could probably extend their queue too to more than 10 cars, which will eliminate any backup, potential backup.
Any other comments?
That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Stern. Any other questions for Mr. Stern?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Good evening, my name's Ben. Regarding the backup, we have a 10-car stack in here. I don't know if you guys can see that. So coming in, we can hold 10 cars on the property. So if we have more than 10 cars on the property, we're not doing our job. The goal for scooters is 2.5 minutes through, so by the time they order and the time they're gone should be less than 2.5 minutes. So our goal would be never to have, and I'm not up here to say it's never gonna happen, because it potentially could. But more than likely, we shouldn't have more than 10 cars in a line. If you guys have been to Caribou here, that can be a disaster over there, and that's kind of what we're trying to prevent here, is have it on our own property and not spilling out into, there's an easement, I don't know if you guys know that, there's an easement that runs through there, that's kind of why we have the building twisted the way we do. if we twisted it the way Robert would like us to do it, we're gonna impede the parking lot for the bank. So just looking at this, I understand his concerns too, and we've talked to Boys and Girls Club on this as well, to try to be neighborly. I probably should have picked up the phone probably prior to Robert. I didn't know he owned that property back there, but that is not our goal, is to impede any traffic in this area. So it's kind of what the reasoning, the building's rotated the way it is just due to the easement. And there's no easement currently through the bank. Well, there is an easement through the bank currently too, the way I understand it. So, any other questions you guys have in regards to the layout of it currently?
Sounds like there's a lot of easements.
I would just, he brought up Caribou, and I did some measuring on Caribou. From their ordering all the way back out to get to Home Street there, 14 cars could fit before you'd be spilling out to Home Street. And I don't think it's ever even come close to
I see.
getting out to Home Street, that they've had 14.
Not like a lot, but I have come up to it and you just drive by. Whether they're all the way back to that road.
Is that all from Caribou? It's nothing to do with Miguel's or anything else, that it's all,
It's still down an aisle.
okay. So anyhow, they can fit 10 cars on site. To get all the way out to where it caused congestion to the frontage road, they'd need 18 cars to get out to there. Just to give you some numbers and perspective to Caribou.
You mentioned rotating it the way Robert had mentioned. Would you be able to plan your parking spots then with the bank?
I guess we haven't talked to them about that, but the concern is the bank has talked about selling. So I don't know what would go there, and then that may change things again at a later point, so.
And there is no easement between this property onto bank property, correct?
I'm not familiar with that. I believe there is a cross.
There might be through the bank. I'd have to talk to the bank if that actually is there in place currently. I know there's one, we had a lawyer look at the easement that runs back through to allow access to Robert's building and the Boys and Girls Club. So there's an easement through there.
I would point out that whether they come in right onto the access that's there or into the bank, doesn't resolve the issues of the cars and the furniture, it's still the same.
I would also at this point just point out that you're not approving a site plan, you're not designing their project. Your job is to decide whether or not they meet the requirements of the ordinance or the requirements to get a variance, not whether or not their site project looks good, whether or not you like it, or whether or not it is the choice you would use. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will move to close the public hearing. That I did open in the first place. And look at the commission as far as consideration for the variance that's in front of us. I know it's a lengthy variance. Does anybody have any additional questions after your public comments? Not, then I'll make a call for a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve the staff.
We have a motion from Terry to approve the variance and for the facts and findings recommended by the staff. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. Last call for discussion. Hearing none, I'll call for a motion to approve. Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nay. We have 2 nays. 4, 3. So, motion carries. two, am I correct in that math? Andrew, Eric, right, is what I heard. And names were Jenna and Chris, correct? Okay, hearing no further items, the motion has carried. All right, we are on to our next public hearing consideration. This, opened the public hearing at 5:55 to give consideration to an ordinance amending the subdivision ordinance of the city of Detroit Lakes relative to its jurisdiction.
So the city council has entered into a joint powers agreement with Lakeview Township to exercise its subdivision authority in certain designated areas in the township. This was done because I think that the township and the city both wanted to avoid a joint planning board, which the city has proposed for that area. So in order to do that, they entered into a joint powers agreement so that we can address that. In order to make this work well, we felt it would be good to revise the ordinance jurisdiction portion of the subdivision regulations. And I sent you all information about what that amendment would look like. The city attorney's office has asked that we include this language at the beginning of the second paragraph. It says, notwithstanding the adoption by the town of Lakeview of an ordinance for the regulation of subdivision and platting, then it goes on to say, pursuant to a joint powers agreement between the town of Lakeview and the city of Detroit Lakes, these regulations shall extend into and apply to the unincorporated areas of Lakeview Township. Reference from time to time as the designated area. So that's the kind of information and the language that we want to include in our subdivision ordinance. I would recommend.
Okay, Commissioner, do you have any questions regarding the amendment? Subdivision ordinance? Larry?
Is that?
What would the negative impacts be when approving it?
There's not really any negative impact. We would still have the joint powers agreement, and we would still exercise our subdivision regulations in that area. This just helps to clarify that there is this agreement between the city and the township. So I think it's just better to clean the way for us and it's more, let's say, interest of open up. So I think we can do it.
So, just running this through my head, this is just kind of like, a couple years ago, we lost that extra territory with Dale. Now you want to go all.
When the townships decided to enact their own subdivision regulations,
Now we're kind of clawing back to the league to kind of control some of that, we would like to see as well.
it's a power grant by the system.
Well, and Lakeville is amenable because they obviously
Well,
signed the
The
joint
other
powers.
option would be that they would have to have the joint planning board, which would be two people from the county board, two people from the township board, and two people from the city would be the governing body of that area.
That sounds fun, sign me up.
There's a good reason why people aren't interested in doing it.
And Lakeview Township, or excuse me, the city of Lakeview is very much aware of.
We have jointly entered into a joint powers agreement, so
Last December, right?
we've been negotiating this, it took about a year to do that.
Cam, any wisdom over there from your former hat?
I would just make a motion to approve the amendment to the ordinance, because if the joint powers agreement already exists, and this is just formalizing the fact that Lakeview Township and the city of Detroit Lakes have already agreed to have this, it makes sense to just recognize that the cooperation is there, and
public hearing. And at this point in time, I'll either call for a motion or further discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment as presented here.
Do we have a second?
One second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, last item on the agenda is variance and conditional use status report.
Not much new to report, it's there before you have any questions.
Doesn't look like we could update it. I only have one other comment. We need to update our website.
Okay.
Dan's not on there, and our terms aren't updated.
Well,
FYI.
if they would let Jen have access, we would get it updated.
Want a motion?
She doesn't have access to it, so we are relying on others, and it happens. Their assessment.
I'm actually excited, so I shouldn't be here.
Me too.
Oh. All right, anything else? I'll close the